Myofunctional therapy has entered its gadget era. The problem is very few people are explaining when it's actually a helpful appliance, if it's actually a little overhyped, or if it's avoiding dealing with a bigger problem. And that is exactly what we're going to get to the bottom of today. However, before we get too far in here, I got to let you know that this is not me being anti-product, tool, appliance, thing. This is absolutely not a sales pitch for anything, any of the products here. So I'm not against them. I'm not for them. I'm just going to give you an objective view, because what this is about is providing you the deeper context within. So if you're a dental professional, a myofunctional therapist, an allied health professional, or you're just someone from the general public who's like, what is all of this appliance stuff about? Should I be getting a tooth pillow, a Myo brace, a Vivos? Should I be doing a REMplenish Myo nozzle? Should I be doing this, that, or the next thing? We're going to dive into it. So if you need to know if you need to recommend it or if you need to use it, I got you. Okay. So welcome. Just in case you're new here, I'm Carice Laguerre. I'm your Myo best friend. I'm here on YouTube for free with over 100 hours at this point of education and lectures and topics. I practice myofunctional therapy and I practice it at a high level. I have a practice that practices in person in 2 states with 1 therapist in person. 2 states, and these states are not next to each other. They're Florida and New Jersey. I run a 6-figure practice. It is absolutely like the passion of my life. It's changed my children's lives. I've helped to change so many others' lives. I teach it, I live it, I preach it. I am all about myofunctional therapy, and I think that's what gives me the expertise to talk to you today about this topic. So if you are interested in being on the top, like pinnacle of excellence in this field, by learning more, by knowing more, by staying on top of the things that I'm talking about, myofunctional therapy, and how to really be exceptional within it and discern between the fluff, because I don't do fluff, okay? It's only real talk here or no talk at all. Subscribe, like, comment, share. That's how we keep this going. All right, my friends. So diving right on in, I'm going to let you know right now that we are not going to ignore the elephant in the room, that, myofunctional therapy was created in the early 1900s. So that's the early 20th century that myofunctional therapy came about. And with all of that, it really didn't get a whole lot of huge traction until maybe the 1950s, when SLPs were brought in, because this originated in dentistry. Let us never forget, okay? But when SLPs were brought in, speech language pathologists, and then other people started being brought in, other practitioners and professionals, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists. There's so many other professionals that were brought in and kind of introduced into the world of oral facial function and the impact that can have systemically and on just overall wellness and health. And products is legitimately just the last 30 years of it, something that is almost going to reach its century and a quarter age. A profession that has been around for that long did not have products for most of its inception. But what we do have is an influx right now in where we are with influencers, people who are, and it feels cringy, right? I know, I feel like as a older millennial, what, an influencer? That feels super cringy. I think in the days of my growing up, if you had a popular artist, actor, anybody who was famous and who had a platform and they started promoting things, you called them a sellout. Like they were for sure the sellout. We don't like that. Like, why are you trying to push us into something? We don't want that. And so I feel like it is a bit cringy for me, and hopefully maybe for some of you, you can relate. So if you felt my cringe, as I said, like influencer, that's where it's coming from. But today, it is actually pretty common. You don't expect anybody to be on social media if they don't have something to sell. Like, why are you there if you don't have something to sell? And it's just something that has proliferated society in such a deep way to, where the more followers you have, the more influential you are seen, and the more you have to push and sell, and the more you make when you push and sell. And so I'm not going to ignore that that is a big elephant in the room, that there has been a rise, a lift, a shift in the amount of people who are talking about myofunctional therapy, who are into holistic and natural ways that they can help their families, help their loved ones, help themselves to eat, sleep, speak, breathe, digest, anything better. And so when we acknowledge that that has been a big part of things, we can also acknowledge that that's shifted the public demand. And when there's a big demand, there's going to be products that are built to fit the demand. That has to just all be acknowledged, okay? I'm not going to ignore that if there was no market, there wouldn't be products for us to talk about. So clearly there's a market. Clearly there's a reason why there are products, and everything works. I will always tell you that. Everything works, even a placebo. This is going to be about getting into the real nitty gritty of what works, why, when, and for whom, and how we can look at this from a lens that is a bit more narrowed than the broad spectrum appeal of influencers, because everything they put out is meant to be broad spectrum appeal. That's how you get things to go viral. That's how you get attention. That's how you get likes, comments, follows, so forth. You have to have broad appeal. Even if you're in a niche, you have to have broad appeal, which is why in the airway world, you'll find very few people who are going to disagree with what's going on in the field, who are going to say some of the controversial things that I say. I don't care about being on the outskirts, and I really don't care if like only 4 people watch this. That's great. Like, I love the 4 of you. I think what's really interesting is that when you're in a niche and you're going for that broader appeal, that you get sucked into saying some things, promoting some things that you might not have looked at from an objective lens. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get super objective, okay? Because it's important that you know if you're being helped or if you're being sold. I really love everything about Schitt's Creek. It was such a great show. R.I.P. Catherine O'Hara, fabulous actress. But I think that this is so cute because it probably didn't fit our brand identity. Like, going with some of the influencers and just keeping on that trend. Branding is a big, big thing. And a lot of times that's what you might be being sold into. Something that fits into the brand and fits into the identity of a holistic parent or a holistic crunchy person, or somebody who is more likely to go a natural route to get resolution, somebody who may not have a lot of money to spend. And so what they're looking for isn't the thousands of dollars in a treatment plan. What they're looking for is something that fits their brand identity. Affordable, quick relief. That's what you're being sold. Because you're not being helped if somebody has something that is affordable, quick, and easy. That's just logic. It didn't take you, 90 days to get there. You're not going to get full help in 90 days using a product that does one function, and you'll never need anything else ever in the rest of your life. It just doesn't make sense. And so multifactorial, it's what we want to think about. But I want to give you a bit of a broader lens, because what I really want to avoid is you being disappointed. A lot of those memes where it's like what I bought versus what I got. Let me tell you about the Reddits. If you're not on public forums, I don't know what to tell you, but you need to get on Facebook groups. There's Facebook groups for all the things. Yes, tongue ties. I think everybody's in there for that. But where I really love to be is in the appliance forums where they're talking about Myo brace, where they're talking about Vivos, where they're talking about tooth pillow. And I see tons of disappointment. There's success stories like dripped in there, but the amount of people who are like, this is what I thought it was going to be, and this is what it actually is, woo, that is very enlightening. And I think that that allows me to see it from a different perspective because I'm actively seeking out what is the problem here? Like, where's the disconnect, right? And that is true science. I will say that for all the research that everybody has in this field and where they feel like, the field stands and we're so evidence-based, one, they're wrong. Two, true science is actually trying to disprove your hypothesis. It's going in and actively saying, okay, I believe airway is the way, the truth, and the light. I'm going to do a clinical study to disprove my thought. Because if I can disprove it, anybody else can. If this is my belief and I'm going to test it, I'm going to test it to the highest height. And that is where we have a huge disconnect in science and research and everything in Myo, where there's not any control studies. There's nobody who's doing, frenectomies and no frenectomies and then following both and then making sure that they have relative similarities in the options that they could have gone. Like, did they do myofunctional therapy? No frenectomy, but they did myofunctional therapy and they did body work, or they went to acupuncture, or they saw a speech language pathologist and they did functional remediation of other issues. Like, where are those studies where you're trying to disprove it, where you're saying, hey, look, they did everything except the tongue tie and this is the outcome? Or, hey, look, they did everything except Myo, and this is the outcome. And you're like, oh, yay, how exciting. I proved that we need it. Instead of saying, hey, we used it, we did it, and look, they needed it. That's not real science. Okay, so this is where we get a little bit of the disconnect, because then we present science to people and people are like, oh my gosh, I thought we were going to get this great big outcome. And I am so underwhelmed with what actually occurred. So we're going to avoid disappointment. Hopefully that made sense. If you're not following me, like, leave it in the comments. That way I know to slow down. Or speed it up. If you're like, I get it, sister, move on, like, tap it, write it in the comments. All right. So here's a 5-function filter that we are going to put everything in. I need you to know and to understand that absolutely positively, I am putting the person first. I am putting forth what their issues are first, and everything else can filter in beyond that. Okay. So with this 5-function filter, I want you to think with a discerning mind about all of the appliances either today that I'm discussing or that you consider in the future. So screenshot this if you need to. Write it down if you need to. Pause me, but don't make, my face look weird while I'm paused. But you can pause me and you can make sure that you get this down. But here are the 5 questions that I need you to look and have a discerning eye on when you're interested in buying an appliance or a product or a tool. Okay. What problem is it trying to solve? Is this something that is marketing me that I will get better sleep? Is this something that's saying I won't need myofunctional therapy? Is this something that's saying I don't mouth breathe anymore after using this? Is this something that's saying I can get proper oral resting posture? Is this something that's saying I won't need a tongue tie release, or I won't need braces, or I won't need a traditional expander? What is it that they're trying to solve? Then, how are they going to solve it? What's the mechanism of action? If you don't understand it, you shouldn't be using it. If you cannot understand the functionality or the engineering of a particular product, why would you tell your child to put it in their mouth? Why would you give thousands of dollars to anyone to do anything if you don't understand the mechanism of action. So you need to understand the mechanism of action. I don't put anything in my household if I don't understand why it works, how it works, whatever. And even if it's on like the smallest scale, like I don't know all the engineering behind a vacuum, but I know I need a vacuum because we have pets. Like I need a vacuum. I have 4 kids and pets. Yes, we need a vacuum. Okay. So what is the mechanism of action of the vacuum? It picks up stuff off my floor. Like that's what it does on the simple scale, but on like a greater scale, I can understand the mechanism of action is that it's really producing a vacuum of air and everything that's going through is going to go up the tube and then I have to discard it afterwards. Like we get the mechanism of action on the smallest of scale. So I'm not saying that you need to have like a PhD level understanding of these appliances, but you should understand the difference between traditional orthodontics and a removable functional appliance and what that means and how that's going to impact you, your child, your function, your eating, your behaviors, your ability to have free time at home, your vacations. Like, what does that mean for you in your life? Okay. Who is this product, tool, service appropriate for? What age group is this targeting? Is there an age group? Because I think age matters. It matters a lot. There's a developmental age and there's an actual age. There's all sorts of things in between with sensory issues and, neurodivergence and all sorts of things. Like, is this for everyone or is this particularly for a certain set of people? Because something that is for everyone is, I hope you can fill in the rest. All right. If you can't, I promise we'll get to it towards the end. What does compliance realistically look like? Because that's what everybody is lacking. Every single time. I can't tell you how busy the Myo spot has been. That's why I'm not as consistent as I need to be with these live streams because I am working. Your girl is working hard. But with the compliance of Myo is so much. I tell people all the time, and it's almost like, and my husband says it all the time, it's like you push more people away from Myo than you do pushing them to it. And I'm actually quite proud of it because I don't want to lie to you. I don't want you to give me money so that you can then be burnt out and be like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. And you'll be all upset and mad at me. And we just clash at that point. I have so many people who I honestly feel like I am so blessed to work with, but like, should I be working with these people? These really smart people who are like PhDs and MDs and DOs and DPTs and all sorts of professionals who trust and value my opinion because I give them the truth. And so I think with marketing, that's what it really needs to be. I am more than happy with not converting every single person I spoke to, but every single person I spoke to who understands the commitment level and the compliance that's required with myofunctional therapy, and that this is a long journey. This is not us being together for 2-3 months. This is us being together for a long time. You're gonna get sick of me. We're gonna hit a roadblock. We're going to have to push past things. I'm gonna try to make it fun. I'm gonna remind you why you started all of this. I'm gonna keep encouraging you. But none of that means anything if you know you're going to hit that wall, if you know you have this big project at work and you won't be able to commit in 4 or 5 months, if you know you have a wedding and you're like, absolutely not, I cannot start this before then, even though I really wanted results before then, I can't promise you that. Like, we have to be as honest as possible. And that's where some of these appliances are deeply lacking, is that they do not tell you the reality of the compliance and that you will be using these things significantly longer than you would use some traditional appliances. Like something that a dentist can fix in your mouth, you'll probably be using for a couple of months. But like something that you have to actually put the work in and it's a muscle retraining appliance, these are long treatment plans where people are on them for a year, year and a half, 2 years, and it just goes on. And you have to work the program. If you can't work the program, don't start it. It's a waste of time and a waste of money. And if people set that up, there would be less of the people who are all upset about like what I got versus what I thought I was getting. Okay. Last question is this addressing the cause or forcing a new behavior? What I always will find strange about this profession and this field is that we talk so terribly about traditional orthodontics and about how the habit appliances that they put in to stop a tongue thrust, like a tongue crib or tongue rake, it's so terrible and it doesn't teach them properly what they're supposed to be doing. Just wait till you see some of the stuff we're about to talk about. Like, they clearly force a behavior. It's just something that we find to be more favorable. And so for some reason, that's okay. It's the oddest, most contradictory behavior I've ever seen in my life. And for some reason, we justify it. I don't understand this profession. I don't understand this field in many, many ways. But I think that that's a big thing that you need to look at, because most of the people who are looking to work with a myofunctional therapist are looking for root cause solutions. They're not looking for temporary fast fixes. They wouldn't work with us if they were. And maybe that is the gap upon which an appliance or a tool or a product should fill, not necessarily replacing. Consider that. Okay, let's dive in. These first things, I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm giving myself the giggles, but I call them silicone saviors because everybody swears that these are like the way, the truth, and the light. Like, we have to have a medical grade silicone appliance. That is the only way to fix our child's teeth these days. And it's like the next best thing to Invisalign, because God forbid anybody knows my child had ortho. That would be the worst, even though every other kid is getting ortho and there are no orthodontists losing business over this. In fact, many are really happy with the whole MyoBrace tooth pillow, HealthyStart, Vivos Guide, all these things, because you'll use up all of your insurance benefits, your dental insurance benefits, which most people don't realize is once in a lifetime, not once in a year, not once in every 2 years, although some might be like that. Many, it's once in a lifetime. And so if you don't change your insurance plan and you use up your benefits and you get lackluster results with that, well, now you pay the orthodontist out of pocket and they're not upset about it. Like, it's just, they do get upset. Actually, I've talked to a lot of orthodontists about this, and one in particular who's supremely passionate and does very little referral to Myo. They know when to versus when not to, but the orthos who are very upset about these things are upset because it's tricky. It's useful for some people. There's a very good criteria of people where this might be very useful, and I promise you we're going to get into that in just a second. But they're not for everybody. They're not magical, wonderful appliances that just gently guide all the teeth into place and you guarantee yourself a lack of need for any sort of braces. These are function-focused appliances that are trying to use some of the soft tissues and the soft tissue pressures that are implied on the dental arches, that are applied on the dental arches, and they're using that to help guide in a different way. However, more often than not, you're gonna find that it's moving teeth and not necessarily changing craniofacial bone, which is inherently an issue when you get into older ages. So this is really good for the younger ones. Really, really good for the younger ones. Love it. And even in combination with traditional orthodontics treatment, like braces, arch wire, rapid palatal expansions, sometimes these are really good. And often you'll find that there are some airway focused providers who will use a silicone savior appliance as a retention appliance. So we finished expansion. Now we're going to use this to kind of keep everything in place until we get into what's going to be our phase 2, which is more of alignment, brackets, arch wire, so forth. So the goal for these things is really to help fix some of the cause of the issues, which is the soft tissue pressures. So we're looking to fix that and move the teeth gently into where they should be, hopefully create a little bit of space for teeth to fall into proper alignment. Some of these are custom and so forth. So it's really working off of like what is considered to be like a functional matrix. Functional matrix is that theory that soft tissue dysfunction is what's going to help. And if we work on that, we need nothing else, right? So I think this is incredibly important to look at the differences between traditional ortho versus our myofunctional orthodontic appliances. Prefabricated appliances are just that, prefabricated. They can only be customized to a point. If you're looking for truly individualized help, it's not going to come from a prefabricated appliance that's built in a couple of sizes. That's not the way that works. Okay? Whereas traditional orthodontics is using a bit more of engineering and physics to work on how we're going to move these things within the bone. What is the proper ratio of our bone resorption versus bone deposition that needs to happen to shift a tooth from one position to the other? How long is that going to take? How much function do we need in between? Because your patient's going to be chewing and eating and doing things. How much of that function do we need along the way? Okay, so it's customized and it will require just a bit more intervention as far as like you will be seeing your orthodontist probably a lot more than you will see a function focused appliance provider who's handing you a silicone savior appliance. Okay, your compliance though in traditional orthodontics is sit back, kick your feet up. Not fully, but really sit back and kick your feet up because they do all the work. You don't have to do much of the work. The appliance is more often than not fixed into your mouth. And so fixed into your mouth just means that it's bonded. So it's not going anywhere. Or if you are very, very strong and very, very adamant, you can definitely get an appliance out. And many times there are children who do, and there are adults who do as well, who get their appliance right on out their mouth. If you don't want it, that's fine. But fixed is otherwise bonded on there. Whereas where you have something removable, a silicone appliance or something that's been fabricated for you, you could take it out. And so you're in charge of how often it's in, how often it's utilized, how often it's cleaned, how often you're in charge of everything. You have to put in the work. You have to be able to have the child wear it. It has to be something that can be utilized in that way that is consistent and proper. So not only does it need to be in their mouth, but the lips need to be closed, but the teeth need to be on it, but they can't be biting, but they have to do different exercises. Like there's protocols with these things and you're responsible for it. It's not the doctor. It's on you. When it doesn't go right, it's not the doctor. It's on you. That's important to know. Okay. The target age is always early intervention. I say 10 or less, like always 10 or less. If you're going to try it, like have your child be as pliable as they could be as far as developmentally. Like we need a little bit more of that, they're malleable, able to be adjusted, because that soft tissue pressures, it just works so much better. Whereas, traditional orthodontics, they want you to be as not malleable as possible. They would like you to be pretty fixed in where you are. And so typically once most of those sutures have fused and closed and so forth, like we're going on and doing all of the things, because now we can really adjust and move and do things the way that we should. And the success rates, honestly, look at the research and look at objective research. There's not much, but there is some where it's not that successful. Most people, and I implore you to go on a Reddit, a Quora, or a Facebook group or forum to look at the people who are using these. It is not normally successful. That's just what it is. Whereas something that is on the doctor and there's risk of malpractice, there's all sorts of things, like they have a higher success rate in achieving the result, not necessarily in maintaining the result. That is that part where we could talk about retention and like relapse and all sorts of things afterwards. But it happens on both ends. It really does. There's a bit of relapse that happens too after some of the myofunctional appliances come out or after you're done with those programs. There's not 100% success for any of these things, okay? Not even for myofunctional therapy. So don't get it twisted. I am biased, but not that biased. Here's the things that I think you really need to consider when it comes to silicone saviors, okay? They are really good at saving money and really good for the young kids. If you have a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, 6-year-old, go for it. Like, do it. And you have the ability to spend the money to do it affordably, such as how tooth pillow, I don't even know what they're charging right now. I don't care to know, so please nobody tell me. But like tooth pillow, they're supposed to be affordable, accessible. If you have the money that you are okay with, literally you could burn this money and it wouldn't mean anything to you, then go for it. Try it. Your compliance has to be top tier to get the best outcome. It is the same as listening to a guru on the internet talk about business or talk about making money online, and they'll be like, results vary. The people who take every bit of advice and who do this, that, and the other, or invest in different programs and yada, 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 like, yeah, they're going to get the best outcomes. They're going to be the cases that the guru wants to show you. But most people, like 90% of their audience, isn't making any money and is absolutely like just struggling along trying to figure it out. Same thing with these appliances and the marketing. The compliance is 100% on you, so results will vary. Are you ready to dedicate daily hours to doing this and making it work, to making it a fit? That compliance burden is a real big con to this. Oftentimes there's also issues with hyperactive gag where if that's not addressed, like, what is the point? What is the point? If your kid is struggling to brush their teeth, you're going to tell me that there's this silicone appliance that you're going to now get them to hold in their mouth for these lengthy periods of time? It does not make sense. Make it make sense. It does not make sense. So you have to consider the person that is going to be wearing it too, and the risk of using it without any sort of real re-education. Because let's be really real about myofunctional therapy. One, it's not cookie cutter. If it is cookie cutter, you're with the wrong therapist, and I am so sorry for you. But it's a custom plan that really does reverse engineer how you're going to get to habituation and real long-term retention of these skills. We are working from the smallest points. So phase 1 is always those exercises that everybody talks about on the internet. All the exercises. Yes, phase 1 of Myo. But then we start getting into breaking down recruitments and compensations by muscular collaboration and coordination, like what's supposed to move where, when. We do collaborative tasks and activities. That's where the real magic starts to happen. But then after that, we start integrating it into daily life. You can't get all of that with an appliance. You get maybe 5%, being generous, 5% of that by putting an appliance in or using a tool or drinking from a straw or whatever. You get maybe 5% of that. So don't ever think that you're getting real retraining of your muscles. It's like somebody handing me dumbbells and telling me I just need to do bicep curls and I could be really healthy. Like, just keep doing those bicep curls. It's going to do wonders for your skin, and your bicep curls are going to do amazing for your digestive tract, and just keep doing the bicep curls. You've got the weight, use it. That doesn't make any sense to you, right? So like using one set of muscles to help retrain another set of muscles, it just doesn't make sense. So if it doesn't make sense, it won't make dollars either. And so let's talk about our 5-function filter for this. What problem are silicone savers trying to solve? Dental arch formation, the development of such, and how the trajectory will go. How are they trying to do it? Soft tissue. They're using soft tissue, trying to retrain soft tissue. That's all it's really trying to do. It's not trying to actually move the teeth. It's just using the soft tissues and the pressures of that to hopefully guide the teeth into a proper position by having a little notch in an appliance or having a barrier within an appliance that the teeth will sit in, and so they can't move or deviate too far off track. Who's it for? 10 and under. If somebody's selling it for an older age, I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why. I would love to hear why. Drop it in the comments if that's you. What does compliance realistically look like? High, super high. It's all on you. If you're going to buy a product, expect that it's on you to do the work for the product to actually get the results. And so that's daily investment of your time, of your effort, of your irritations, of, whatever. Like, nobody likes being a nag, and you will 100% be a nag for your child with this appliance unless they absolutely love it. If they love it and they're doing it voluntarily and they're asking you, hey, is it time to put my whatever in? Awesome. But it is 100% high. And I don't think enough people are prepared for that. This is a long road for you to every day, on vacation, on holidays. Yes, on Christmas, they need to wear it. Like, you have to do this. If you don't, you're going to get something that is suboptimal. And if suboptimal is what you're going for, don't invest, honestly. But if suboptimal is what you're going for, then you know exactly how to achieve it by getting the poorest of outcomes. And is it addressing a root cause? Absolutely not. In no way, shape, or form should you be fooled into thinking that it's addressing any kind of root cause. Now, moving on to some more silicone savers, but these are more like jaw work. So it's jobs for jaws, chewing appliances. I am a big fan of chewing appliances for the right demographic. Huge fan for the right demographic. And I actually really, really love the Myo Chew. Like, I keep these things on my desk. I keep my Myo Munchee. I keep the Myo Chew. I have everything pretty much from this whole lecture on my desk, and I talk to people about them, and I talk about why I love them and why I use them. But I'll tell you that if I have to pick one, a Myo Munchee versus a Myo Chew, I'll pick a Myo Chew almost every day, depending on the size and the age of the child, wherein a Myo Munchee might be a better fit. But Myo Chew and Myo Munchee both are trying to stimulate more of the jaw by getting the chewing to happen, because what the theory is, or what has been happening through the research in anthropology, there we go, we've been able to determine that human skulls are getting smaller. We're evolving. Evolution is not new, but we're evolving, and there's a lack of chewing. We shouldn't have these impacted third molars. Like, your wisdom teeth shouldn't need to come out. But why is it that we cannot develop our jaws and the cranium as big and broad and wide as we used to, or as our ancestors used to? Because everything's changed. Our diets have changed. Things are much softer. You think about all the foods that children love to eat. They're introduced to purees and soft foods very early on, and they just continue that. Chicken nuggets, pizza, mac and cheese. Like, they love all the softest of foods that's the easiest to chew. So how can we mitigate that lack of chewing, where honestly, if you think about it, why do we give babies teethers? Those teethers are so they can kind of just munch on it with their jaws, with their gums. And with their gums, munching, it's stimulating the tooth to come through. Like, we're helping them get the tooth to break through the gums. And so whether you realize that that's why you're doing it or not, I'm telling you that that's exactly why that happens. We are able to stimulate the jaw and bone deposition and some jaw development through active chewing, which is why we should encourage chewing in the younger ages. So absolutely all for it. However, these things will make you every promise under the sun, and some of their marketing is just, it's a lot at best, because yes, you're gonna get really good help and work with strengthening the jaws, and this is fabulous for habit replacement. You have thumb suckers, you have pacifier suckers, you have people who just will not get off of a certain, whatever that they've got going on. You put one of those in their mouth, they've got something else to stimulate, because it's really sensory, like high sensory proprioception. It's really, really good at that. So you've got something else that can go in there and just really fill that void that they might have and make the habit a little less prominent and a little less necessary for them. A lot of great work on how it helps with saliva production, how it can help with the pH of the saliva and maintaining a healthy pH of the saliva, because some of these clean the teeth too as they are actively, working them. So there's a lot of great benefits, but chewing in and of itself is not oral facial remediation. It has nothing to do with any of the dysfunction that you might have going on. So if you have weak muscles of mastication, this is great. But if you have some other stuff going on, like stuff with your tongue or stuff with the oral pharyngeal space, you've got enlarged tonsils and adenoids, like what exactly is chewing supposed to do for that? Nothing. It's a collaborative, it's part of a bigger picture, which is what I really want you to know about all silicone appliances, honestly. They're part of a bigger picture. You didn't get to where you are now with dysfunction by missing one thing. There's some form of epigenetic sequence where some nature and nurture didn't quite mesh well enough, and that led to some dysfunction. You cannot fix it with one thing alone. You probably need myofunctional therapy and an appliance. So you need like a dentist or an orthodontist, and you need a manual therapist to actually deal with your tight fascia or deal with whatever things. You might need an oral surgeon. You might need an occupational therapist. You might need a physical therapist for whatever global or gross motor dysfunction you might have that is really impacting your fine motor function. There's so many things that are to be considered that, like, it's not going to fix everything. So it has its place. It has a place and a stage, but it's not for absolutely everything. So let's look at our jobs for jaws. What are they trying to solve? A lack of chewing, a lack of really utilizing and engaging the muscles of mastication. And so what's the mechanism of action? Function. We're going to chew. If you got a lack of chewing, we're just going to chew, and that's how we're going to fix that. Yay. Okay. There's a lot of other marketing. I can tell you, I've attended a lot of Myo Munchee stuff. I have the whole book and brochure out here. I could tell you all the wonderful things that they do for geriatric patients, for periodontal patients, for so many different things that they market and they will say that they can help with. But I just 100%, if it's me, if I'm giving it to somebody, it would be a part of something as a bigger plan, but more often than not, I'm giving it to those 5 and under who could really get the most impact from that chewing as far as their malleability and their growth trajectory and their ability to really maximize that and get some really good engagement and strength and awareness. Okay, so that's where I'm at with that. What does compliance really look like? It's high. Yes, you have to have your kid put it in their mouth. They have to chew on it. They have to do it every day. They have to do it for minutes a day. Like, they have to really, really, really engage. And is it addressing a root cause? Structure and function, they're associated, but they're not the same, and you're not always going to get that wonderful outcome. So is it addressing the root cause of the issue, that there hasn't been that exposure to chewing, or does it stimulate additional exposure to chewing? No, it's like faux chewing. We're not giving new foods or introducing new things like that. So you might need a feeding therapist if part of that is your issue. So no, I'm just gonna go with no. Okay. Power products. And y'all might be like, oh my gosh, jobs for Jaws, silicone saviors. Like, how should come up with power products? Because these are powerful products, strong products. I favor these things that are not trying to go for big aspirational goals, but also some of them really do have some big aspirational goals that we need to talk about. Like, so come on up to the front. If anybody is watching and knows anything about me at all, you know I love a Manditrac. So I don't rely on any product for anything. Honestly, in my mini Myo programs, all the time I'm giving a Myo Chew or a Myo Munchee all the time, because that is the exact age group that I find it to be the most beneficial for, and it goes in conjunction with my referral to one of my fabulous airway focused providers, and in conjunction with one of my myofunctional therapy programs and recommendations for the SLPs, OTs, PTs that I work with out here too. However, I will say Manditrac has been tried and tested by like every single TMJ patient I've ever worked with. And it's been quite a few, a lot of physical therapists who all seem to fall in love with the thing and they like keep using it. I use it on a lot of adults. I use it all the time, really all the time, with like a lot of different things. I think the Manditrac is fabulous. If I know anything about its inventor, Cindy Herbert, she is absolutely fabulous. She's probably watching this with like her hands over her eyes, and she's like, oh, what's she gonna say about it? I won't say anything bad about the Manditrac. What I always say, and I'm very consistent with this, is that what I love about the Manditrac is that it kind of puts together different exercises and things that we would do in myofunctional therapy anyway. It just makes it one quick and easy product. It just makes it one really fast, quick and easy thing that you can easily get to, easily clean, and move through the exercises quickly. But I can duplicate this. If somebody doesn't have a Manditrac, or I'm waiting for an order of Manditracs, or I haven't seen Cindy in a long time, and I really haven't, I miss you, Cindy, but I can easily duplicate this. I have aligner trace heaters. I have a wafer disc. We can do wafer slides. We can do chew tubes. We can dupe this in a lot of ways. So is it necessary? No. Is it great to have? Yes, it's fabulous to have. It is one of my favorite appliances, but it can be replicated. The Froggy Mouth. Froggy Mouth is very interesting because Froggy Mouth is retraining in a passive way the swallow, but it's not doing it in a way that is as interesting as, its proponents would like you to think it is. In the same way that I say we can dupe a Manditrac, you can dupe a Froggy Mouth. So the point is for the child to passively wear the product while watching TV, which already I have so many people who are adamantly against that. There are a couple of people who are like, oh, I went to go see this provider that you sent me to, and they told me I should give my kid this appliance and put them in front of a TV and tell them to wear it, and like that's gonna help things. Like, absolutely not. I will not put my child in front of a screen. I do not. We have no screens in my home. It's like, okay, I get it. I get it. You don't like that recommendation. I feel like Froggy Mouth figure out a different way to phrase that, because a lot of people don't like that. But it's really passive, and you could really dupe it. They sit there and their lips cannot engage in a suction focused swallow, so they have to figure out a different swallow. So the tongue has to establish its own independence in the swallow, because it's essentially just taking away the ability for the facial muscles to collaborate in the swallow. But if you put in a cheek retractor and you sit with that for 15 minutes, can't you do the same thing? I mean, just think about it. Why would I need to spend that money? How many of these can you get on Amazon? For less than $10. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't personally use it in my practice. Do I see the value that some therapists might find in it? Yes. Can you duplicate it? Yeah. Like cheaper too. Just really, I don't know. I fail to see the appeal there. But it works for some people. Everything works, including a placebo. I will always say that. Myo spots, not to be confused with the Myo spot, okay? The Myo spot ends with a T, does not end with an S. And Myo spots are a product, not a service or a practice name. Myo spots are these wonderful little candy based. I don't even know if they're candy, but it's a dissolvable tab that you can put and it'll stick right on the spot, which is that first bumpy ridge right behind the upper front teeth. You can put it right there, put your tongue on it. Tongue just sits and passively, yay, will work. I don't know what it's supposed to achieve other than maybe some anterior and like proprioception and really maybe working in the same way passively as the Froggy Mouth to try to change over a swallow patterning. Possibly. REMplenish. And also can be duped. I'm sorry, the Myo spots. There's so many things you can put in your mouth and just let your tongue sit there and they will dissolve. It can be duplicated. So everything can be duplicated so far, with the exception of the Myo nozzle. The REMplenish Myo nozzle is absolutely fabulous. I have their new box. Thank you, REMplenish, for sending me that. I am a REMplenish partial believer. I believe in it as much as I believe in like anything else, but this is like the old packaging from like the old straw. I believe in it as much as I believe in anything else, that it's a tool that can be used but isn't 100% necessary. Is it the magic for sleep and sleep apnea that everybody thinks it is? I don't think so. But does it have some value? Yes. Why do I believe that? I believe that for children, but mostly because in 2024, I did a study. So I did the study between 2023 and 2024, 5 weeks, 3 cases, 3 children, very different children. And you can reach out to me in the Myo community and ask me about this, and I will happily send it over to you. That way you can see it, you can read it, and you can go through all the cases. And you'll see in the before and after pictures, as you're kind of browsing it right there, that there were some changes and there's definitely some value, but they were doing myofunctional therapy too. I talk about it in there. There's a great bit of reading that you can do to read this. It was a fabulous thing that I was not paid by REMplenish to do. I did not get free bottles or free Myo nozzles, which is the straw topper for. I paid for those bottles. I did all my own research. They didn't give me any cases. They didn't help me set up the poster. They didn't do anything except ask me, hey, are you interested in doing a case study? And I said, yeah, actually, I would be interested. I would love to see a before and after. And that's all that they really had to do, is just ask me, would I like to? And I was like, yes, I would like to, because I want to know, is it helpful or is it not? And so I have a lot of my true inner thoughts about these cases on this file. It's a PDF. I will send it to you. Just reach out to me on the Myo community. Happy to share. But when it comes to REMplenish as a power product, I will say that REMplenish, it serves a purpose for some tongue strengthening, but the tongue in and of itself is not gonna be your whole kit and caboodle. It's one piece of the puzzle. Just like I wouldn't expect a Manditrac to fix everybody's oral facial dysfunction. Like, it can help with the muscles of mastication and TMJ, functional hinge training, and so forth, but it's not going to do all the work that I need it to do. So I would never use just a Manditrac, hand somebody a Manditrac and be like, oh, that's the end of it. Or give somebody a Froggy Mouth and be like, yep, this and 3 exercises, yay, you're all done. These things all come with something else. So the REMplenish, it can be used inappropriately. Like, you can fake the funk. It is a product where the little nozzle at the top, and like I specifically look at it because I know my daughter's broken down hers a couple of times, where the little spot at the top where it's supposed to filter out some of the water, like you need to have a certain pressure and strength in order to get the water to drink, that starts to break down. And once that starts to break down, like, easy compensations can occur. It's really just, it's just drinking out of a straw at that point. It's not doing the same sort of muscular activity. And so I think it's very, very important that you kind of go in with a grain of salt. All of these are really helpful and do serve a purpose, and all of them are definitely things that can be recommended, but we need to make sure that we're doing it with the finest of grains of salt, because it needs to come along with something else. It's a power product that needs a partner. You like those 3 P's? Okay. You know what really grinds my gears? Mouth tape. Mouth tape really grinds my gears. I am not a proponent for mouth tape. I am also not fully against mouth tape. I have plenty of people who I work with who will tell me that they use mouth tape, they love it, they want to continue using it, and they would love to know my protocol around it. Absolutely. I teach myofunctional therapy. I tell people, here's what I would do if I'm introducing mouth tape, to someone. Mute has a mouth tape. Everybody has a mouth tape, honestly. Hostage tape, Myo tape, VO2. I like all of these products. I would tell people all of these products, like, hey, what mouth tape do you think I should use? VO2, Myo tape, Mute's mouth tape. You could use hostage tape. Use any of them. Honestly, whatever you want to use. But mouth breathing at night is your body trying to keep you alive, number one, but it's also a cue for something. It's not saying like, hey, just if you close these lips, you'll be perfect again. There's an underlying problem that's not being addressed, and it seems like we picked the most superficial solution to it. So it's just like if somebody has a gummy smile. So if they smile and you see there's a lot of gums and then there's teeth, that is professionally termed and more appropriately termed, and we should probably stop calling it gummy smile, but as vertical maxillary excess, which it's long growth, vertical growth of the craniofacial structures. And so your maxilla has extra vertical growth. So if you don't smile, nobody would ever see the gummy smile. Therefore, you fixed it. No, like that clearly doesn't make any sense, right? Like how would you fix that? There's an underlying problem that needs to be addressed as to how we got to longer bony growth, and then how we would fix longer bony growth. Like we would need some sort of orthodontic intervention. Like that's what we would tell people, like, okay, well now we have to start talking about orthodontics, and look, your maxilla, it grew down longer, and so this is what we have to do to kind of mitigate that. This is the myofunctional component. This is the soft tissues that we're going to work on and so forth. And here's the structure that you're going to need. I'm going to send you to such and such orthodontist or airway focused provider so that we can get that resolved. You wouldn't tell them, hey, just don't smile, because you know that's not the fix. So if somebody has an open mouth, if the response is just cover it with tape, like hostage tape, I find to be such an interesting name, because essentially it's like if you were kidnapped and somebody put tape over your mouth so that you couldn't scream, would you die? No, your body's going to breathe through your nose so that you don't die. And so if you were a hostage, you could just play pretend every night and pretend to be a hostage and just shut your mouth that way. it just seemed very superficial. There's no depth of thought behind that. Like, hey, what's going on? I feel like real myofunctional therapists were thinking through a little bit deeper than that. Like, okay, I think I need you to look into 100% why you are mouth breathing. Go see a ear, nose, and throat doctor who can scope you, see if there's any physiological reason why you are not breathing through your nose. If that's all ruled out, sure, mouth tape, because clearly that could be the only other answer. Not like there's some other things that we might want to work on instead. But mouth tape really grinds my gears. Everything works. So there's a lot of great stories about people. And I tell you, I work with people who love their mouth tape, and I do not discourage them from using it. It's just, we will get to a point in our program where you're like, oh, I haven't been using that mouth tape because I haven't really needed it. Could it be because we've worked on some things that maybe needed to be resolved, and that's why your mouth was open, and that's why you no longer need the mouth tape? So yeah, it really grinds my gears. I try so hard to hold that in. Power products, our 5-function filter. So what's it trying to resolve? TMJ dysfunction, if it's the Manditrac, a lack of lip strength and seal, or also posterior tongue from Manditrac. I don't want to forget that. The genioglossus, there's a great exercise for the genioglossus, which is the one that helps to keep the tongue up and out of the airway. And so it is a wonderful appliance for those who have issues with their tongue posturing, particularly posterior weakness or back of tongue weakness. Lack of lip strength and seal, or a proper swallow, Froggy Mouth. Okay. Spot awareness, Myo spots. Posterior tongue strength, even though they advertise for anterior tongue strength, I really think it's the posterior tongue that the Myo nozzle really helps, just from personal use and from those cases that I talked about. But that's neither here nor there. It's helping with some form of tongue strength, okay? What's the mechanism of action? With everything except the Myo spots, it's function focused. It's trying to do muscular strengthening through a functional task. Proprioception, Myo spots. But this functional task, I want you to remember, is something in repetition. Like, in repetition, how beneficial can bicep curls be for me as a person, when globally there might be other muscles, other issues, other things that I need to work on? I can't do one set of exercises to fix everything. And so that's how I think everybody needs to start thinking about the muscles that are in the orofacial region as well. Okay. Who is it for? Everyone? Because like there's no limits for some of these things. And what does it look like? It's still high, and it doesn't address the root cause. I think it's really important that any new product that comes out, like, please put it through the 5-function filter test and see if it's still appealing to you after that. And if it is, then go forward. However, you also need to know how to spot the hype. Tell me you don't get the song in your head as you're like looking at that. I'm immediately scammer time. Anyway, how to spot hype. Does it sound broad? Is it for everyone? Because if there's one tool that can help everybody, then it helps nobody. Okay, it's for no one. If it's for everyone, it's for no one. And it's really important that products and marketing teams and so forth start to really narrow in on who this is for and who it's not for. And it shouldn't be not for somebody who's not serious about getting results. That's a falsity. That's a falsehood, okay? We know that that does not make any sense. So who is it for? Because if it's for everyone, then it's for no one. All things can't help everyone. You might as well just go get some sugar pills, start taking them, and then hope that everything works out really well, because sugar pills are for everyone. They work in almost every single clinical trial. Placebos work for some people. So they work for everyone, don't they? To cure all things? I don't know, maybe. Okay, if they have before and after photos without any context, that's a problem. You saw all of that text around those 3 before and after pictures. Yeah, that's all the context. That's all the issues they presented with. That's what we did in myofunctional therapy, what my goals were after my evaluation, what I saw changes in, what the use was, and so forth. Like, there's context around those before and after photos. It's not like, hey, do this because your jaw will get so much better. And if you put your thumbs in your palate, it's going to be amazing, just like Oscar does. Like, come on, guys. I don't care who's championing this stuff, whatever airway people there are out there trying to champion something or some product or something. Like, this is not a reality. This is not replicatable on a large enough scale that this should be put out there. So before and after photos, that they have to come with context. If they don't, it's a problem. Anything that's selling the identity, like you want to stop being a mouth breather, do this. That's selling an identity. It's not selling you a clinical outcome with a reasoning why. And anything that overpromises around a diagnosis. So anything that's like ADHD will help with that, bedwetting will help with that, jawline, we're going to help with that. Like, if it's absolutely targeting a certain diagnosis and there's nothing FDA wise that can substantiate that, scam. All of the scams. But 100%, if they're not requiring some sort of medical collaboration, like talk to your doctor, work with a myofunctional therapist, see a dentist, like there has to be something that's like, yes, you need to do all of these things in order to get the outcomes, not just buy this product, because it has to be more than that. Okay. For my practitioners out there, my fellow myofunctional therapists, if you need help trying to figure out how you make a decision, one, define where their dysfunction is. What's the problem? Do they have issues with their tongue strength and you think that the REMplenish would be a wonderful adjunctive tool to your program? Yes, that's awesome. If that supports your treatment plan, that's awesome. If it's supposed to distract from it, like, okay, we can cut some time off of our treatment plan by eliminating the whole oral phase swallow. And so we're going to give you the Froggy Mouth and that'll take off a couple of months off of the treatment plan. And then that's a full distraction from what you're really supposed to be working on. And you know that that's not a function focused goal for you as a myofunctional therapist. So if it's distracting from it, don't do it. If it's going to be an aid, do it. Okay. Set realistic expectations for them about the usage. How long do we need to use this? Do I need it for the rest of my life, or is this just for the program, or is it just for a portion of the program? And help them to reassess or reassess yourself instead of just kind of assuming. So look up all the information that you need. Give them, your patients, all the information and the help that they need. It's invaluable. Okay. Do not, whatever you do, don't buy based on fear or the hope that something is going to just change everything. And certainly don't buy because some influencer said so. Like, I don't care who they are or why they're trying to sell you this thing. You know better. So don't do it, okay? It's just not worth it, all right? Now, I am so happy to be here with you, as always. And I like that Roxanne had asked for the research. So I'm just going to remind you, if you're on LinkedIn, just leave that comment there. I will send it to you. But meet me in the Myo community. Just message in the Myo community asking for the REMplenish, the Myo nozzle research, or my poster. Just ask for the poster and I'm happy to get it to you. I am so thrilled, as always, to be here with you, just helping you elevate up to excellence. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Don't forget to subscribe if you are not a part of my wonderful family here on YouTube. That way you get the notification next time I'm live. I love you all. Bye, Myo best friends.